Josephine Mandamin, for a 66-year-old woman, you still got a lot of spring in your step and you've got a lot of energy. Tell us about your walk around the Great Lakes and what that teaches us about how to care for water.
Well, in walking around the 5 Great Lakes, we learned something about each of the lakes. And where we're standing now is Lake Superior, and that's the first one that we walked. We found the majesty of that lake. It is so powerful. It is so strong, so clean, so pure that when you first look at it and you see the majesty of that water, you want it to stay like that forever and ever and ever for the generations to come. And that is the message that this water brings us, is that it needs to be kept that way, because it's there's rocks, there's mountains under the water, and there's sand also. There's everything there that we need to take care of for the next generations to come. And we learned that this Lake Superior is unforgiving, is kind, is gentle. It can also be very, very treacherous. So it has a different personality. It has many personalities, I should say. That it's a really a powerful lake, and I can see why they call it Superior, this Lake Superior. It is truly superior. And the next lake we walked around was we didn't walk around. We did the upper Michigan in 2004. And from that journey, we discovered that this area had been traveled again by our ancestors, because we saw traces of them, of marks that they have left for us to see. And these are many generations, maybe even 7 generations ago, that they have left markings on the rocks. They have left trees to stand in such a way that we know that they had been there. And we see the rocks, which we call the grandfathers, in a circle, big ones, and that they have been in a circle, the 7 grandfathers in a circle. And those are the teachings that we get in our Medewin Lodge, that our chief, our Grand Chief Eddie Benton, has always bestowed those blessings and those teachings to us about the 7 grandfathers, the 7 roads that we walk on, and that we're mindful of the messages that our ancestors have left for us, and that we were so happy to see those signs on the rocks, the paintings, the drawings on the rocks, and the shapes of the trees, and what we see in the sky realm through the rocks. It was very humbling and very uh, mind-boggling to think that they cared for us. And so we were put in that place where we are at that same thought, where they must have thought at the same time, that we are also at that point in time thinking of the generations to come, that those that will come will also acknowledge that there were grandmothers walking around the lakes for the protection of the waters, which is the purpose of our walk. And so that was the message that we received from Michigan. And then the following year we walked Lake Huron. And in walking Lake Huron, we found that as we journeyed 3-4 days later, we ran into this community that was having a big meeting of chiefs, and we were invited to a lunch with them. So we had lunch, and then they wanted to hear what we were doing. So I spoke to them all in the language, the Ojibwa language that I was born into, and spoke to them about the journey that we were on at that time. And I told them how absent the men were in the walk, because in taking care of the water, there is always supposed to be a man walking beside us. And as Nishnabekwe, we were walking both with the eagle staff and with the pail of water, that it was very difficult at times to do both at the same time, and to interchange the from the left to the right and the right to the left. So we talk to them about responsibilities, men's responsibilities to the women, for them to walk beside the women in the work that they do, and giving life. Women give life. They're the carriers of life, and that the men also have a part in that. They plant the seed in the womb of the woman. So once that's done, that their responsibility does not end there. They also have to be a part of the taking care of that water of life that they have planted the seed in. So it talked about that to the chiefs and the council, the tribes, the chiefs that were there at that meeting. When we finished talking, there was long silence. Nobody said anything, and I think they were just overwhelmed or overcome by what they had heard, until finally one of the elders, Gordon Wendebis, stood up and he said, what paraphrased what I said. And then after he finished, and then everybody just stood up, and there was a applause, standing ovation for our talk to them. And then from then on, there became men to come out and help us with the staff all the way around Lake Huron, all the reserves at Kettle Point, Shawniga and Port Huron, Sarnia, and all the way around. Men just started to come and walk with us. So it was a really a time of unity that we're reminded of Lake Ontario. And Lake Ontario is precious to me because that's where I was born, on Manitoulin Island, on a little reserve called Wikwemikong. So it was very precious for me to walk around that lake. So Lake Ontario was Lake Huron to us was a uniter of male and female, that they need to work together with the work that we're doing as Nishnabekwe, caring for the water. And Lake Ontario was uh, a very difficult to walk, in terms of the water was so polluted that it only took us 10 days to walk around that lake. And I think mainly because it was easy to walk, because there was paths around, almost around the lake, all around the lake. Going through Toronto was easy. That it wasn't that difficult. We thought it was going to be hard to go walking through Toronto, city of Toronto. Anyway, when we got to the other side, we noticed our pail was really heavy, and we'd wake up in the morning, our shoulders would just be really, really hard, really heavy, and we the girl said, "How come this water is so heavy? It's not. We didn't add any more to it. It's the same amount of water that we've always carried." And we had to take short breaks, longer breaks, in order to give our muscles, our arms and our shoulders and our backs more breaks. And so we got to the other, so we saw the pollution in the water. We saw the dead fish just laying on the shore. They only grow up as far as 6 inches in this area, and then I suppose they all die from something, and they're just washed ashore, and the stench was just terrible. In another section, we saw water that was just full of green slime. That the slime we knew was we didn't even touch the water. Lake Ontario, we were afraid to even put our foot in the water, because every lake we see, we would take our socks off and wade in the water, and wash our feet in the water. But this water was really different. A year later, I got an article sent to me from somebody in a magazine, an article that calls the Lake Ontario heavy water. And I really marveled at that, because having them call it heavy water, because it is full of metal, full of toxins, that it is, that apparently it is, scientifically it is heavy water. And so that really solidified our feelings about how that water was so heavy, that it is full of pollution, that scientists are finding that out, that it is almost metallic, with the stuff that is being poured into the water, the nuclear plants that are being cooled with that water, and then the water being put back into the water, of course, is going to make it poisonous. So Lake Ontario was very tiring in terms of